to our podcast, Journey to Life, Guiding Your Light Towards Healing from Abuse. My name is Constance Fields, and today I'm going to be interviewing my co-host, Arlette Jones-Lawson, who happens to be my mom, on her new book, There's More Beyond Surviving, Journey to Life. So let's just get into it.
All right.
So my first question for you is, what inspired you to write this book?
Well, this has been a book that I've always known that I've been meant to write. Since I was 18, I've known that the seed was planted. At that time, I had no idea what form it would take. I just knew that it was important to use my experience from childhood sexual abuse to help others heal. I was at the beginning phases of my healing at that time.
Well, in your book, you draw a correlation between emotional healing and healing from a bone fracture. And you actually refer to the abuse as the abuse fracture. So how did you come to that correlation?
Well, as a woman of deep faith, I refer back to the scripture in Ecclesiastes 1:9, which, paraphrasing, basically says there's nothing new under the sun. So I reasoned that if it's possible to be healed in one area, then it's possible to be healed in all areas. If it's true in one area, then it's true in all areas. Mm-hmm. So through much prayer and just, seeking an answer to whether or not it was possible to be healed, I knew it was possible to be healed from physical, but I needed to know whether it was possible to be healed and how from the abuse fracture. And the correlation is from a bone break, and I call it abuse fracture because it's when and where our life was fractured from the sexual trauma or the abuse.
So who would benefit from reading your book?
Well, this book is meant to help anyone that's been broken from the weight of being traumatized sexually. And really from anybody that has experienced a trauma, abuse trauma in their lives. The beauty of it is that it's just kind of powerful in its simplicity. It's a step-by-step guide towards healing. Mm-hmm. And it draws a direct parallel to that of the bones healing process. And so each stage has its place.
And I think it's important to point out that in the book, you actually have activities for the readers to do. And when you get the paper copy, you also get a pen that goes with it. So you can work along at your own pace doing the activities. And that's a really important thing to point out. But I also wanted to ask you, along the lines of the steps, is it important for the reader to do the steps in order?
It is not mandatory, but it is beneficial, especially when you're at the beginning stages of your healing process. It is important that you follow the healing stages in sequential order. If you're not at the beginning phases of your healing, then you can, skip to the sections that in the areas that you're dealing with, the areas that you're struggling through, and those can be very beneficial. Also, at the end of each stage of healing, there is a parallel chart that gives you a picture that basically parallels each step of the bones healing with each step of healing from our abuse fracture. And so then reading through the chapters, once you get to the end of each stage, you do have that picture to remind you of the correlations.
That's great. And it really helps clarify for the reader how everything seamlessly relates to each other. So that's really great. Now, abuse can take on many forms, and you kind of alluded to this earlier, but is your book beneficial to the many forms of abuse that a person can experience?
Absolutely. healing from abuse and healing from any type of abuse trauma, be it sexual, physical, emotional, verbal, anything that can make a person feel that have experienced neglect. All of those things can benefit from following the steps.
So I know that abuse can be compartmentalized. Whenever we experience something traumatic, we can push it to the back of our minds, and often those memories don't emerge until we experience something triggering. So what advice do you have for someone who is experiencing or has been experiencing triggering moments that bring those painful memories of abuse to the forefront?
Well, in the book, the section on the bone consolidation phase offers an amazing opportunity to be able to address those triggers and to be able to minimize its effect on your life. There is a section called In the Queue, and the healing exercise associated with that section allows and offers an opportunity to be able to expect certain environments or sounds or smells that are triggering moments, to be able to anticipate those and to be able to prepare yourself.
Yeah, so in your book, you introduce the readers to the character Arlette, and her story is really hard to read. It's very painful, just following her journey. And I'm curious how you believe that readers will be able to identify with Arlette's character.
Well, Arlette's character is created and introduced primarily to help the reader work through the healing activities and to be able to better understand the expectations in properly performing those activities. It's important that the reader understands Arlette's experience, and although she's introduced early on in the book, and reading about her abuse fracture might be painful and possibly triggering, it's important that the reader understand who she is, and what her experiences are, and where her abuse fracture comes from, so that they can better understand how she answers the questions and how she performs the healing activities, and the importance of having a example of how to work through those activities is that the reader is not, in a place where they're questioning, am I doing this right? Am I, is this the right way that I'm supposed to answer the question to get the most out of it? And so Arlette's character is very beneficial, and she's loosely based on my own abuse fracture, but also I've had the benefit of counseling many people who have had a sexual abuse fracture in their life, and so she's a character that's kind of a combination of many experiences in one.
So it's giving the reader an opportunity to go along with Arlette's journey and chronicle it themselves.
Yes.
As they work through their own.
Absolutely.
That's wonderful.
Absolutely.
Now, in your book, you also talk about the term safe space. You use it quite a bit. And I know safe space means a lot of different things for many people. Can you describe what safe space means to you?
Yeah, safe space refers to that deepest part of ourselves. And although I know at the time that a person experiences the abuse fracture, they are traumatized by being violated sexually or abused in any other kind of way. At that time, it is easy to feel like you're kind of outside of yourself, and really what's happening is that you're accessing the deepest part of yourself, and it's the part that keeps you the safest. And I call it your safe space, and it's individualized. and everybody has one. And there is a safe space meditation activity that's included in the book that's intended to help the reader to be able to access their safe space at will and when needed in any situation.
That's wonderful. Do you believe that it's possible for survivors to experience complete trust?
Yes, it is possible to walk your way back to trusting. It is a process, and it's a choice. It's a choice to trust. But also, it's important to know that just anybody can't gain admittance into your safe, into your trusting circle. It must be earned. And so you have an opportunity to choose who gains admittance into your trust circle. But yes, it's absolutely possible to trust again, and also to feel joy again.
That's an important thing to point out. It's possible to experience joy again.
Yes.
So I'm curious, what advice would you give to someone who is currently in an abusive situation?
Well, I think it's very important to make a plan. So the person experiencing abuse should not make their decisions kind of knee-jerk. So it's important to make a plan, and it's important to, in that plan, to gather important documents that may be necessary, because those documents will likely not be accessible after the abused person has exited the situation. And so it's important to pay special attention to, for instance, the finances. And I know some may be on an allowance, and there's a certain amount of money that they're given. And so to just start, maybe stashing away a little bit at a time to kind of build up an escape nest egg, if you will.
Yeah, and when we talk about abuse, oftentimes the abuser, well, all the time I should say, the abuser is the controller. And abuse is all about control, no matter what type of abuse it is. And so nesting away a little bit at a time is essential. So is changing passwords, right?
Absolutely. Changing passwords safely. If you're changing a password that both you and the abuser access, that's not wisdom. But changing passwords that are unique to the abused person, I would absolutely recommend that. Any area that would indicate the intention to escape certainly needs to be protected.
Are there any apps that we can download, or if anybody is experiencing abuse currently, or just to be aware if they have a loved one who they could share this information with?
Absolutely. There are actually two that I think are really great. One is called the Aspire app. Robin McGraw is the founder of that.
I have that one.
Yeah, and that one disguises itself as a news app. And within that app, there's a special way that you can activate the message that is sent out to the people that you've predetermined to get whatever predetermined message that you have, whether it's help, it's happening now, and then you access to allow those messages to go out to the predetermined people. Or places you can predetermine that 911 is contacted with that message, and that's a really great app. Also, there's an app called the Victim's Voice app, and that's a really good one. Now that one does need to be downloaded, and you do need to have network accessibility. But with that app, you can upload documents, pictures, if you have, cuts, bruises, and you take pictures of it, you can upload those things to that app. And so the documents that are uploaded there are acceptable in most cases legally. So,
So in court.
admissible in court. Absolutely, absolutely.
It's like keeping a paper trail.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And also, it's important to reach out to what I call your safe space people. The people that trust you, that trust and know your story, that believe you, that kind of have your back, and make them aware of the plan. Because the wrong time for them to be made aware of the plan is at the time that you're making your escape.
Right.
So it's very important that you notify them. Also, it's important to talk to professionals, whether it's lawyers or mental health professionals, to kind of go over your plan to make sure that the plan is tailored to your needs and and your situation, so that you can escape safely. But the key is to escape safely.
Yeah. So I am going to ask you one last question, and that is, how can your book, There's More Beyond Surviving, Journey to Life, be purchased? How could it be pre-ordered, and when will it be widely available?
Well, my book will be available mid-December, and it'll be available in both print and ebook format. Ebook on Amazon, and there will be a link available to be able to order the printed version. And as you stated earlier, the printed version does come with a pen to help work through the healing activities and exercises in the book.
Yeah. Well, that's great. I'm so excited for everyone to get their hands on this book. I've enjoyed reading it and working through the steps, and I think it's going to be invaluable to anyone who reads it, and gift it to someone who needs it, because it's really, really powerful. It's going to help a lot of people. So thanks for sharing it with the world.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
We are starting a podcast, and this is going to be our first episode. We're going to get to interview professionals. We're going to get to interview survivors
who have embarked on their healing journey, and that are thriving, and to be able to hear others' experiences.
Yeah, it's going to be bi-monthly, and we're going to make it available anywhere you can download a podcast.
Absolutely. And if you have, questions or suggestions for upcoming podcasts, we welcome that as well. And we'd like to just kind of address issues that are burning within you.
Yeah, and if you also want to share your story, or you feel like someone would benefit from the information we have here, definitely get in touch with us. We will make sure to link a method of communication, and we look forward to talking to you next time.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.